So you stop being a person and you just become love's presence. This love is freedom, and freedom is all there is. Everyone is free. There is only freedom. And then there's just this dream of being a person in time, and a dream of bondage, and a dream of looking for freedom, right? When you recognize the freedom that is the self, that is who you really are, you recognize that that's all there is. It's not yours. It's all there is. And you can extend helpfulness to others by coming from that place. It's not even that this helpfulness is really a doing. It's just by the very fact that you're coming from that place, that's what you're actually seeing. That's what you're knowing in your heart about everyone at all times. That is already helpful. Beloveds, let me begin with the answer to the title of this video. And straight away, the answer is service. Now, if you're new to this channel and that answer doesn't resonate for you, you might want to wait a minute and see if the explanation will make a difference for you. If you're not new to this channel and you're a frequent visitor, I just want to say a little note, which is that I hope the way that you're using these videos, since most of them are, a half an hour long, I hope you take the points that really speak to you, and that you know when it's not resonating with your inner guidance to let go of the parts that don't. Because in a half an hour video, or several half an hour videos, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's said, and some of it is said to a particular audience who are going to comment or write me that that's exactly what they needed to hear exactly at the right time. And then there might be that those same parts might not resonate for some of you, and then I'm just trusting you to listen inwardly and know what to take and what not to take at any given time. All right, don't take this as gospel. Listen to yourself, trust your inner. When I say self, I mean capital S, right? And also be discerning enough to know what is resistance within you that's coming from the ego. And it's like, the ego doesn't like it. And what is the self saying? Hey, you know what? That's not for you at this time. It's just not relevant. It's not a resistance though. Okay. So that aside, service. I'm going to start with a quote from Wei Wu Wei, which says this. It's kind of funny. Why are you unhappy? Because 99.9% of everything you think and of everything you do is for yourself, and there isn't one. So we're living this whole life for myself. I'm living this whole life for myself, right? And there isn't one. It's a fictional self. It's a dream self. It's a story of the serial adventures of this body that goes by this name through space and time, and its successes and its failures, and what it managed to achieve and what it failed to achieve, and the recognition that it got, the recognition that it didn't get, the praise, the blame, the shame, all of these things that the dream character seems to experience, I guess, throughout the dream, right? And when you start to discover that this fictional self has no actual reality or has nothing to do with what you really are, what then do you live for? If you're not going to live for yourself, which is really for your separate self, for your fictional self, if you really see through all of that, what are you going to live for? And that's where service comes in. You see, in awakening, what's the body going to be used for? Right? If you're not living for yourself anymore, if you don't need the world anymore, because you're not trying to define yourself in worldly terms anymore, you're not trying to be someone anymore, you're not trying to complete yourself by finding things in this world, then what are you going to use the body for? So the body becomes a vehicle in service of spirit, and then you're just here to be truly helpful. You have nothing else that you want. And that's the true shift from getting to giving, to unconditional giving. And in this giving is where you realize that you have everything. If you don't give, you don't know that you have. If you're in getting mode, then you're coming from lack. When you're just giving, you realize that the well of love is endless, because that's really what you're giving. is love. Yeah. Even if it's in the form of kindness or whatever helpfulness comes through you from your heart. It's very heart-centered, heart-based, right? Yeah, it's not about you. It's just not about you. It's really like operating in the world while being completely not of the world. And truly, you're not even operating in the world because the body is a projection. You're not really in the world. And so the body becomes this communication device that allows you to be, sort of like a loudspeaker to remind your brothers and sisters that they're not a body either. They're not human. We're pretending to be human. But you don't have to keep pretending. You can remember what you are. And then again, the body, this human meat suit, sort of becomes an act. But it's an act from love. It's love's action to allegedly be human, to enter the dream of forgetfulness of the self, of the pure divinity that we are, and the pure goodness and love that we are. And as a character in the dream, to begin reminding all the other characters of everything I just said. Right? So another way to look at it is that some people talk about different paths, say the path of renunciation, the path of knowledge, the path of devotion, right? And then like maybe service is seen as another type of path. But really, in my experience, as a Westerner at least, meaning if you're not going up to a monastery and doing that type of renunciation, or you're not sitting in a cave, or you're not sitting near some mountain somewhere just meditating in a temple or something, or just anywhere, then really your path is a mixture of all of that, right? You are renouncing the world. I have a video called Shedding the World. That's just really what it's about. It's about realizing that the world and the body and the self-image, the self-concept you have, none of that is a part of who you really are or what you really are. What you really are is changeless. It has nothing to do with your worldly self. It's only your ego that's trying to define you in worldly terms by what you've achieved, what you haven't achieved. And this you, who is that you anyway? It's just the body and its adventures. But you think you're in the body. You think you are this person in the body that's getting things or getting somewhere, or, or will one day find satisfaction or something like that, right? You're not. That's why I say you're not even in the world. The body is really a projection. So this thing doesn't define you at all. It no matter what happens to it, you still are what you are. In A Course in Miracles, they say, I am as God created me. I can't change from my divine nature. I am that goodness, that purity, that beauty, that magnificence, that magnitude, that amazingness. That's what you are. Yeah? And you believe the definitions that the ego gives you about what you are, and then guilt creeps in, and fear creeps in, and being not enough, being inadequate creeps in, etc., right? So eventually you are renouncing the world, whatever path you're on, and you are gaining knowledge, you could say. But this type of spiritual knowledge, the real spiritual knowledge, is really just knowledge that's helping you remember and uncover the truth and unlearn all of the false things you've learned about who you are, about what the world is, about who everyone is, about your weakness, which is basically the drive to get comes from weakness, comes from not knowing who you are, comes from lack. When you know who you are, there's a power to it. There's an absence. Love has no needs. There's an absence of needs. And that love is automatically helpful. It's automatically serving. It's not an effort that it does. It's not a special character that you become who's a special serving character, especially helpful, or it's not a character. It's not like another self. It's just, what would love do if love was in the world? What would it do? It would just see the pure goodness, the beauty in everyone, the light. And it would just love them. It would just be available to help them because they're worthy completely. They're entirely deserving of love. Yeah? But you have to, in order to see that, you have to not be here as the separate self. You have to get out of the way entirely and stop living for yourself or as a self in general and live as the self, seeing truly who and what everyone is. And then you want to give to them. It all becomes giving, not getting. So that's knowledge. And then we're talking about devotion. Yes, you develop a certain devotion, commitment, loyalty, whatever you want to say, to the truth. And that devotion takes the knowledge and the renunciation and all of that and kind of centers you more in the heart. And as you're going through the journey, you are naturally learning to be more giving, more serving, more helpful than anything else. Because the more you're renouncing the self, the separate self, the fictional self, the idea of what you are, which has nothing at all to do with what you really are, yeah, you're making room for the spirit to flow through, for the self to flow through, to shine through. And that shining is helpfulness. That presence is helpfulness. And it can flow through you with certain words at a certain time, the perfect time. It can flow as certain actions, certain expressions of love, right? Yeah. So you're not really in the world. You're not here in the world. There's a body here. There's a dream here, you could say. A play, a game, if you prefer. But it has. You're beyond it, right? Yeah. So all of these things, renunciation, knowledge, devotion, service, they all are a part of the journey. But eventually, when you've renounced the fictional self and you've renounced the world, which is the same thing, to be honest with you, it's the exact same thing. Once you've renounced the world, you don't need anything from the world, then you are not anymore. That fictional self is something that's always trying to get something. When the getting activity stops, right, then there is no separate you, and you become available in a very loving way. Because you're not here for yourself anymore. So you are here to serve. You're here for others, if you will. But those others, knowing that who they really are is one with you. They're the same as you. It's not like there's no specialness at all, right? So you renounce, you unlearn, you devote yourself to truth, and it all culminates in a place where that's it. You're just here to be truly helpful. You're just here to serve the true self, spirit, the divine in everyone, right? And that's it. And it doesn't have to be in a particular way. You could do it whatever you do. It's that presence, if you will, that flows through you, that love. So you stop being a person and you just become love's presence. And it doesn't matter if you work as an accountant, if you work with the elderly, if you're a spiritual teacher, if you work at a supermarket, it really doesn't matter. Love's presence does the miracles, gives. It knows what, when, how, all of it, right? So that's what remains when the person is gone. It's just the presence of love. So you live as that, not as a separate person, but you also see that in everyone. So that's why I say eventually service is what it all leads to, because love gives, and all that giving, we call that service in this world, or you can call it helpfulness, to be truly helpful. And now you really are able to be truly helpful because you're not defending anything. You're not defending a fictional self. So this is what Jesus means by forgiveness. When somebody mistreats you or whatever, you just overlook that. You look past that to their inherent goodness, their divine goodness, or purity, or innocence, or whatever you want to call that. But it's beautiful, is what it is. It makes you feel like they're worthy of everything. So So love in this world can take on the form of forgiveness in that sense, in the sense of overlooking the other's ego, not in the sense of making the other's ego real and then forgiving it because you're so holy and so wonderful, right? It's overlooking the other's ego and just fixating on the truth in them, fixating on the eternal in them, not playing the human game where with the masks and there's a me and there's a you, and then what the you did to this me and all of that nonsense, right? So then you can really be truly helpful because you're completely out of the way, and then love can just be there. And then if you are being attacked and all of that, again, what are you going to see? Just, I hate you, your ego's attacking me, blah, blah, blah. Or are you just going to see compassion, a reason for compassion? You're just going to see that if they're not being loving, what they're doing is calling for love. There's either love or a call for love, as A Course in Miracles says. And when you see the call for love, you're not offended by the ego. So you overlook it, you look past it, and you recognize it as a call for love. You have compassion. And part of the reason is you've done this human journey. You understand what being lost is like. You understand what forgetting your true nature is like, what feeling unsafe and insecure is like, right? What feeling like you can be attacked and be threatened is like. Yeah. If you don't feel that you are at the place that I'm talking about, if it feels a little bit far for you, you don't feel done with the world. You're not feeling like I don't need anything from the world at all. You don't feel like you know that yourself is not worldly in any way, shape, or form. You don't feel absolutely certain that you're not a body, and really that you have no interest in this body's journey through space and time. Like, it's just meaningless and irrelevant because it doesn't define you, of course. So how could it mean anything about who you really are? It can't. So if you're not feeling that, then use what I'm saying as a practice to get to what I'm talking about, which means deliberately and consciously and intentionally look for the goodness in everyone. Look for the purity, the divinity, the angelic nature, the Christ nature, the Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it, in everyone. Which I'm saying all these different words because one of them might spark something in you. Oh, I know what that is. I know what it means to see the angelic nature in everyone, the goodness in everyone, the purity, the divinity, the Christ, the self. What other words are there? The Atman? I don't know. Yeah, whatever the word that does it for you, connects it for you. Maybe a Zen word, whatever it is. Yeah? So when you start seeing that in everyone, you're literally, like Jesus said, take heart, I have overcome the world. You overcome the world by overcoming the opposites, the duality. So if you see only goodness, for example, you've overcome duality. You live in that goodness. That goodness is now your home. Replace the word goodness with love. If you see only love, you've gone beyond duality. You've gone genuinely beyond guilty and innocent because you see the innocence in everyone. You've gone beyond fear because you don't operate from fear anymore. You operate only from love. You see only love. You realize you can't be attacked, harmed, threatened, so you're not invested in this thing, in this human fictional self or whatever it is. So why would you fear? So you're operating from love. So once you've overcome duality or opposition, you've overcome the world. And that's where you live. Then you say, love is my home. The kingdom of heaven is within. I found it. Yeah? You live as that. And it genuinely doesn't matter what other people do or don't do, say or don't say. It just doesn't. It only matters what you choose to see. If you choose to see their ego, you will feel bondage. You will feel chained, imprisoned. If you choose to see the spirit in everyone all the time, you will be free. and you will be happy. Yeah, so it's really that simple. Fear or love, ego or spirit, that's all it is at the end of the day. Every moment. And that's where maybe bhakti, devotion, comes in, right? Yeah, you have to be devoted to that, but you also have to renounce the world. And you have to gain the knowledge of these words that tell you don't value the world. Don't value being somebody in the world. Don't value trying to become. That's valuing time. You already are what you are. You don't need time to get there. But you do need, in a way, to train yourself to look past ego, because as long as you're focused on ego, yours or another's, as long as you're focused on judgment, you're splitting the one into two. Judgment always condemns you. Whether it's going inwards or outwards, it doesn't matter. If you're judging, you're the one who's going to feel the lack of love, right? So judgment or love, that's really ultimately the question. Yeah, fear judges, guilt blames. That's funny. When we're guilty, we feel guilty, then we try to project it out as blame. So guilt blames. Fear judges. Fear is really the belief that the least desired outcome is the most likely to occur. So it's a belief in something negative in the future. And you get into time with that, and you feel not at peace until the future rears its head and shows you that that negative outcome is not occurring. Or maybe it is occurring, and what can you do now? It's too late. But operating from fear is really thinking you need a certain outcome in the future to be at peace now, or to be in love now. But you're okay now. You really are. You're always okay. And it doesn't depend on anything. Nothing that happens can take that away from you, and nothing that happens can give it to you. You're always that. You're always that purity, that beauty. You're always that. You're so much bigger than this world. Really, you're so much bigger than that body or that idea of yourself and how good you're doing or not good doing, or how guilty or innocent you are, or whatever duality is presenting itself in your mind. I'm good enough, I'm not good enough. It's like the goodness that you are has no opposite. It's pure goodness. It's only goodness. You don't waver. It doesn't waver. The innocence that you are, the love that you are, the beauty that you are, it never becomes ugly. It doesn't change. It's not something that has an opposite. And you know this, but you have to come into your heart for it. You have to be heart-centered. Yeah, because that's why I don't often use words like awareness too much, because awareness for a lot of people feels like it's up here somewhere. It's more mental. This love is more heart-centered. It is awareness, you could say, but you have to. It's not dry. Yes, it doesn't need anything, but that doesn't mean it's just, I don't need anything. It's not like dead or dry or whatever. It's absolutely alive, and it's so happy that it doesn't need to seek happiness. It doesn't need anything. It's already whole. It doesn't need satisfaction. It doesn't need the next experience. It doesn't need the world. Yeah, so let's get the hell out of here. Sure, you can have fun playing here. There's nothing wrong with that. But eventually you will come to see that it doesn't satisfy. This game doesn't satisfy. And then you'll realize that you're only here to serve. And then when you're done serving, like there's a Red Hot Chili Peppers song called Tear, and he says, in the end, all will be forgiven when surrender rises high and I gave what I came to give. That's the end. When you gave what you came to give, that's the end. So surrender rises high. Again, surrender. You're surrendering fully to Spirit. And Spirit only tells you, look, you're already whole. You don't need nothing from this world. So just extend a little helpfulness before you go home. So the bottom line is, if there is no you to live for, then when you live for others, that's the only thing that makes sense. You don't live for yourself. You don't live for this body. This body is not the end. It's just a means to communicate love, to express love to others in whatever way. It could be a smile, it could be just your presence, it could be words, it could be support, it could be just whatever comes from you seeing the inestimable worth and goodness and beauty of the other. When you see correctly, you'll speak correctly. Does that make sense? So that's my message to you, is that you are already perfect. You need to learn nothing. That's the thing about the path of, I guess, if I'm pronouncing it right, it's Jnana, spelled J-N-A-N-A. The Advaita idea of knowledge. Really, the knowledge is just the knowledge of yourself with a capital S, that wholeness, that perfection. There's nothing really to learn in this world. You can learn here forever. Like if you go into the dream and pick it apart and analyze it, and there's so much to learn. Like if you just take music, for example, there's endless stuff you can learn in music. Any topic, anything you take, you can pick it apart and you can analyze this dream forever. But eventually the question is, do you want to analyze the dream forever, or do you want to wake up? And lastly, one of the beautiful things that happens when you devote yourself to spirit, and you live to be truly helpful, and you want nothing for yourself anymore, because you're not trying to find happiness in this world. You're finding happiness in your nature, in your divinity, in God. Then what happens amazingly is that you get everything you need when you need it. It's just this absolute support, and you can live in total trust. You don't need to worry about anything worldly, really. It's like Jesus said, he could say that because he was in service of the Father or the Spirit. He said, take no thought for the morrow. The lilies in the field, they don't toil and worry and blah, blah, blah about, how they're going to survive or whatever. It's just you do your function and everything is taken care of for you. It's that simple. Yeah, but it has to be genuine. It can't be ever a bargain deal or a contractor making us, I'll serve you if you do this for me. It has to be genuine. You have to really be there. Just know that you're loved. You deserve everything. This world does not have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be a struggle. You are taken care of. You are provided for. It's like Spirit says, I'm so loving you. I'm so ready to take care of you. If you just step aside, move your separate plans aside, my plan can come through. And my plan is all seeing and all knowing. And I know exactly how to give you what you need, when you need it, but for what? So that you can really just not worry about these little things, these little worldly things, trivial things, and just be available with a wide open heart to just shine this light of mine on everyone. And what this love wants to do, I'll use the words of Hafiz, the Sufi poet, who said, I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in the darkness, the astonishing light of your being. That's it. That's all love wants to do, just to remind everyone of that. And I tell you, when you become that reminder yourself, when you become the light of the world, it'll be the most fulfilling and happy experience that you ever have. You can't speak about it, man. Another line from Hafiz says, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. And that's love. Love understands, love, that's the rule of love, is that giving is having. If you want to have the light, if you want to have the love, if you want to have the peace, give it. Give it without conditions. Don't say, you owe me. I was so good to you. I was so kind to you. I was so blah, blah, blah. I was so helpful to you. What have you done for me? If you have that, that's weakness. That's the, I need. Love has no needs. And so it can give and give, and the more it gives, the richer it gets. The brighter it shines. So be this power, be this force of love, be a light unto the world, be the light of the world, in Jesus' words. Yeah, and you will immediately recognize that you have everything because you're willing to give everything. That's why in A Course in Miracles it says to have all, give all to all. No one deserves more, no one deserves less. If you put that judgment, if you put those conditions, you're the one who's going to feel the lack. You're the one who's going to feel deprived. Anytime you feel a lack of love, it's always the love that you're refusing to give. Yeah. So I'm just really wanting to make that correlation for you between giving and having. Giving and receiving. They're one. Yeah. Giving is where the blessedness lies. Taking, getting, needing is where the pain is. Where you keep score, where you say you owe me, where you have expectations and you can't just love, and then you leave God, you leave home, only to realize that this whole journey of the prodigal son going out to try to find something outside the kingdom is all futile. There's nothing there. It's empty. The world's empty. This body is empty. This idea of yourself, the false self-concept, is empty. It's empty of the love that you're really looking for. I love you as myself. You are gorgeous, stunning, beautiful, worthy, beyond measure, meaning it cannot be measured, cannot be evaluated by anything, especially anything worldly. Cannot. Your value cannot be messed with. I use the word, it's unfuckwithable. Can't fuck with it. You just can't. Your worth is established by your divine nature. And nobody can argue with it. It's what you are. And anything that the world has taught you about being good enough, not good enough, worthy, not worthy, valuable, not valuable, means nothing. It does not define you. You are the light. And I tell you, the light has no worthiness issues. Doesn't go to a psychologist and say, I don't know if I'm bright enough today. I don't know if I'm beautiful enough today. That's why also the last thing I'll say is that Hafez says, love sometimes wants to do us a great favor, hold us upside down and shake all the nonsense out of us.